publicity and transparency in environmental protection fee usage and state budget. In terms of that 1% of environmental protection fee, first of all, I must say that the budget is very attractive. It's attractive to every organization, every province, and that's why everyone is complaining about shortage of budget. And why is that? It's because the fact is that the budget management was not very tight before, and that's why we had budget deficit, and that lost amount of money actually went to some people, and that's why we often humorously call it the attraction of budget. And that's why everyone wants to have budget addition. And let's go back to the environmental fee, because we have been doing a lot of assessment and surveys on environment. So what we can see is that some organizations make it very effectively, some organizations don't. And the reason for that is that, like I said from the beginning, um, the expenditures were not put in publicity and transparency. So maybe from the beginning the budget decentralization was not right. However, thanks to some responsible and qualified officers in some organizations, um, they could spend the money in an effective way to solve some problems such as environmental recovery, air improvement, or wastewater treatment, and they could make the best out of the 1%. And the other thing is that we should not just spend totally on the state budget, and we should make it socialized. Uh, Talking back about the environmental fund and the fee collection, I think that any organization, any enterprise, or even any individual that makes damage to the environment should be responsible for the society, and they just can't depend totally on that 1% of the state budget. They should pay from their own pocket, and by doing that, I think they're gonna watch very closely to see if the organization spend money properly on environmental issues, and I think this way will be more effective. So the point I want to make here is that about publicity and transparency, the input, the expenditures, and the monitoring process are very, very important. And I think this should be put on mass media. In Vietnam, I think it's better if we consider effectuating the idea of transparency in mining industry by British Prime Minister Tony Blair. According to that, the receipts and expenditures of mining industry must be publicized and transparent to government agencies, social organizations, and I think this should be better. Especially regarding the transparency of budget. As far as I can recall from our business trip in France in 2004, the head of Department of Budget Reform once stated that to have budget transparency, the very first thing he thought about is how to perform it in a monitorable way, in a understandable way. And about budget decentralization, just like Miss Anne has mentioned before, um, um, I think we've been talking about that a lot, and we should make it convenient for every organizations to use, not necessarily equal, but we should make it in a way that they can make use of it effectively to avoid budget surplus and budget shortage. If there is budget surplus, they might use that for the other purposes, and vice versa. If they're short of the budget, they cannot deal with the environmental problems. When the policy on budget decentralization was made by the Congress, every organization should follow it strictly. And the second thing is that the budget should be used with right purposes, as it's going to be used for various purposes, including propaganda, education, or even technical measurements to reduce at most the effects on environment. And we should make sure we have the budget, we have the savings for environmental problems, if any. So, in short, the point I want to make here is that the financial source must be used for appropriate purposes, and it should be controlled by relevant authorities with their own procedures and tools. And what is important here is the supervision of citizens and National Front and the other relevant organizations. And to make it possible, just like Mr. Chung has mentioned before, the decentralization procedure must be uh, publicized and transparent and understandable, with the priority of accountability from the decision makers.